Hey everyone, Blazam here. Welcome back to another Destiny 2 build video. If you like what you see today, please like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications, and let's get started. Okay, so I know that I made two previous videos on the build that we're going to talk about today. My bad. But then this happened over this past weekend. Oh my god, please. Yeah! And in addition to that, we managed to get our stats perfect. So I thought it might be wise to consolidate the information from the first two videos into one complete resource. Links to both of the previous videos will be included in the description, so if you want to take a look at how we got here, you can. Now, buckle up, this is going to be a long one, but I want to try and be as thorough as I possibly can. Timestamps for all the major sections of the video will be included in the description below. So, how does the build actually work? The build revolves around the creation and destruction of stasis crystals to proc massive AoE detonations across the battlefield. It strikes the perfect balance between ability spamming and using our weapons to do so, with great support from our armor, subclass, and artifact. So let's go over the armor set first, as it's the most important part of the entire kit. We're going to be using the entire 7th Seraph armor set. The 2-piece bonus grants us stacks of Warmind charges when we get kills with AoE damage, solar abilities, and with 7th Seraph or Ikelos weapons. This also grants us bonuses to our weapon and grenade stats when we have stacks of Warmind charges. The boost to your weapon and grenade stat is a plus 3 to each stat respectively, reaching up to plus 30 for both weapons and grenade at 10 stacks. This is all according to the compendium, link to that will be in the description below as well. The 4-piece bonus, which is the real juice of the entire kit, states that while we have stacks of Warmind charges, defeating powerful combatants, destroying constructs or tangles, detonates a solar explosion that deals damage and heals allies. But dude, I'm telling you, if you haven't tried this armor set out, you really need to. It turns any stasis crystal or orange bar and above enemy into a bomb. And we opt to go for the stasis crystal route because there is no innate cooldown for creating one, unlike tangles, which have an innate cooldown because they suck. I do want to explore how a build focusing on solar abilities will look like in the future, so stay tuned for that. As for the stat spread, we went for full powerhouse pieces on all of our gear, and you definitely don't need to hyper obsess this next part like I did. I spent collectively around 4 to 5 days in the master version of the Exodus 2A Lost Sector, just trying to get every single piece the same. What I was trying to do was ensure that the third split that we got on each of our pieces was in the grenade stat over everything else. This from the top, with the balanced tuning options selected on each of our armor pieces, gives us 30 health, 30 melee, 100 grenade, 125 super, 30 class, and 200 weapons. A super clean spread. Now, we are running 200 weapons more as a level of redundancy. The stacks of Warmind charges boost both our grenade and weapon stat, and technically, with max stacks of charges, you only need to run 170 weapons to get up to 200. I still like having it maxed out at all times, as there may be situations where I don't have any stacks and now my weapon set is lower than I need it to be. Now this is just my preference for this build, you can set this up however you want. And taking a step back and looking at it objectively, there is a case to be made that you can go for a full gunner set instead, with a focus on getting super as the third stat instead of grenade. This would essentially swap the grenade and super stats so that grenade would be at 125 and super at 100. Honestly, that might be a little bit better, but I can't go back to that damn Lost Sector. I mean, I probably will one day, just to have both stats built up, but that's a problem for another day. Now, our exotic armor piece of choice is going to be the Cadmus Ridge Lance Cap. In the very first version of this build I had made, I was using Icefall Mantle as the exotic. Now don't get me wrong, Icefall Mantle is great, but I do think that the amount of shards that we create on the battlefield that feed into our aspects vastly outweigh the need to run Icefall as the exotic. Now, Cadmus gives us a Diamond Lance when we get rapid stasis weapon kills or when we get kills from behind our barricade. It's a really cool helmet, and it also negates the need to run Diamond Lance as an aspect, which we had in the previous versions of this build. More importantly, Cadmus Ridge allows our Diamond Lances to create stasis crystals on impact and do more damage based on how much frost armor we have. Thankfully, even with the innate cooldown of Diamond Lance in general, we always seem to have a lance when we need one. Therefore, it wasn't necessary to run the Diamond Lance aspect for the build. And this is the nice segue into our subclass specifics. Now, this is a pure stasis setup. While you can of course run this on Prismatic, the pure stasis subclass offers so much specific support for the build to work efficiently. Now, starting with our aspects, we're taking Tectonic Harvest as our first aspect. This gives us stacks of frost armor when we pick up stasis shards, And while we have frost armor, defeating combatants with stasis or kinetic weapons may cause them to shatter, with the shatter chance increasing the more stacks of frost armor we have. Now, according to the compendium, frost armor at base grants a 7% damage reduction per stack, reaching up to 31.25% at 5 stacks of frost armor. These stacks do decay over time, but they remove 1 stack at a time versus all of them at once. Our next aspect is Howl of the Storm. Now, crazy haha funny one-shot boss gimmicks aside, this aspect rounds out our kit wonderfully. While sliding, we can activate our melee to both freeze or slow combatants in front of us and create stasis crystals in a V-shaped pattern in front of us. We also get the added benefit of having an additional melee charge. Huge. This aspect creates more stasis crystals for us, and since we are also generating a healthy amount of stasis shards, which upon pickup grants us more melee energy, we are able to constantly create stasis crystals via our slide melee because we have a healthy amount of stasis shards on the battlefield at all times to recharge it. This allows us to remove Glacier Nade as the grenade of choice for this build and run the new Shatter Grenade instead. This new grenade is a lot of fun, it has a really short cooldown at 100 grenade set of 38 seconds without the boost from our fragments. So when combined together with the fragments and the short cooldown, you always seem to have a grenade when you need one. Moving on to our fragments. We're going to take Whisper of Fissures to add additional damage from when we destroy stasis crystals, Whisper of Rending. This one is more for quality of life. I am a primary weapon enjoyer in PvE, so ensuring that my guns aren't mag dumping into a crystal to destroy it is nice. Whisper of Shards. This one is a flex slot. I like having the boost to my grenade active since it technically is the lowest of our 3 essential stats. The compendium states that it grants us a 500% boost to our grenade recharge rate, which is a comical percentage for 6 seconds up to a maximum of 11 seconds. So I did some testing. If my base cooldown is 38 seconds for my grenade at 100 grenade stat, when a stasis crystal is destroyed, this drops my grenade cooldown from 38 seconds to around 20. Keep in mind that the improved ability regen can be refreshed when another stasis crystal is destroyed, potentially reducing the cooldown to around 15 seconds give or take if more and more crystals are destroyed. This is because the improved ability regeneration will be refreshed with each crystal destroyed. And lastly, we are taking Whisper of Rime. Now, a little bit ago I mentioned that at base, Frost Armor grants 31.25% total DR at 5 stacks according to the compendium. With this fragment, this jumps up to 50% damage reduction at max stacks with a longer duration for the stacks of Frost Armor. You go from 5 stacks to 7 stacks with this fragment. This is a really nice defensive layer to have perpetually active as we are constantly creating and destroying our crystals and creating more stasis shards as a result. Moving on to our artifact. Now, our artifact remains relatively the same, but there are some swaps that can be made. So from the left, we're going to take Wind Chill. This helps us generate more stasis shards outside of destroying crystals. Crystalline Converter. This creates a stasis shard after we activate our class ability and land a final blow with a stasis weapon. More importantly, it lets us build up the converter, causing our next Diamond Lance throw to spawn up to an additional 3 stasis crystals. The next is Weaken Clear. This was serving as part of our DPS support for the build. This reloads our stowed weapons when damaging a combatant with a grenade launcher and weakens it. The weaken debuff is 15%. Moving on to Frost Renewal. While we have Frost Armor, taking critical damage will release a burst that freezes enemies around us and grants our teammates Frost Armor. This is another really nice added defensive layer, especially for me since I am using a hand cannon for a primary, and there are moments when I could get swarmed by the enemies. Moving on to Hail the Storm. This is probably the most important artifact mod we have. With this mod equipped, we are truly maximizing the amount of damage we get from destroying stasis crystals in conjunction with Whisper of Fissures and our armor set. Next up is Served Cold. We have a pretty low class stat as a result of our stat spread, so having this on is really nice quality of life and helps us keep a barricade ready when we need one. The last mod we're taking is Kinetic Impacts. This is DPS support. It will tack on a kinetic shockwave when damaging a combatant with a grenade launcher. This will also give you a faster reload speed when this is active. Now, this was the very first artifact layout that we had for the first 2 versions of this build. After a few weeks of playing with it, I think there are better optimizations that we can make within this artifact that make more sense. The first of which is to swap Weaken Clear for Curative Orbs. This turns our stasis shards and orbs of power into little health pickups. I really like this mod. In normal day-to-day stuff, it might be a little overkill since everything dies so fast anyway. But in higher difficulty content, having the ability to regen health from a pickup that you are literally littering across the battlefield is great. You have to think, we only have Frost Armor and when Frost Renewal is active as the only major defensive layers for how this version of my build is set up. 50% damage resistance does sound like a lot, but that can get torn through pretty quickly if you're not careful. And I am for sure not a perfect player, so having the ability to heal up when I needed to, in addition to what Stasis Crystals already do for our kit, is wonderful. The last swap that we can make is to take out Kinetic Tremors for Brain Freeze. Since we are taking off Weaken Clear, we can fit this in nicely and will further support our need for AoE and control of the battlefield. This also clears up our heavy slot to use whatever we need for any type of content we are playing. Now don't get me wrong, I really do like using grenade launchers in the day-to-day. Rapid fire specifically are a lot of fun to use and they're very satisfying to shoot, but there are instances where using a grenade launcher wouldn't be the most ideal choice, and you would want to run something like a machine gun or a linear or rocket launcher. Just be sure to use what is appropriate for what type of content you're playing. Now, let's move on to our weapons. So I consider this section of the video to be particularly important. Don't get me wrong, like knowing how to set up the build for success and what fragments and things like that to use is important. I want to spend a good bit of time talking about what your weapon options are for this build. So we're going to cover what I like to use in the day-to-day for all types of content and then talk about what the alternatives are. Starting off with my primary, I'm still using my Ion's Luna with Firefly and Headstone. This will create a stasis crystal on precision kills and then immediately detonate it in most cases. In the right setting, this gun alone can enable the entire build all on its own, and it honestly feels like an exotic in some cases. For our energy slot, the missing piece of this entire setup for me was Icebreaker. Now ignore the fact that I don't have the catalyst yet, I might have it by the time this video comes out, we'll see. Icebreaker is a solar sniper rifle, has intrinsic anti-barrier, and has the unique ability called No Backpack, where kills with any other weapon or ability will generate ammo for the gun, with powerful combatants generating more rounds for Icebreaker. What's really cool about this gun is that it does not have reserves, and that might seem a little weird at first, but is essentially always loaded and ready for you to use provided that you are getting kills and keeping it topped up. That being said, it does have a max mag capacity of 10 rounds total. The exotic perk is also called Icebreaker. When we defeat targets with this weapon, it causes them to explode, and when we score a precision final blow or shatter a frozen target will cause an ignition instead. The ignitions and explosions can also cause further Warmine explosions if you have stacks of charges and enemies are clumped together nicely. When you combine the exotic perk and the freeze effect from Howl of the Storm, we are able to burst damage anything that we can apply the freeze status effect to for huge damage. The ignition on a frozen target will also proc regardless of where you hit it. It does not need to be a precision hit if you can't land one. Now the catalyst will also give us the chance to return rounds to Icebreaker when we land hits on frozen or slowed targets. Again, ignore the fact that I don't have it just yet. Now for our heavy slot. When we were using the artifact version with Weaken Clear and Kinetic Impacts, I was using this Outrageous Fortune rapid fire grenade launcher. It's still really good, but there are also instances again where maybe a grenade launcher isn't needed or can't be used as efficiently as something else. Now, since we're not running those two mods in this new setup, your heavy is up to you. Again, use what you like or what is appropriate to your content. I've been really liking this Chain of Command heavy machine gun. It's fun with overflow active. It gets up to like 165 in the mag with a backup mag mod. But again, any heavy works, just use what's appropriate. And this segues nicely into our weapon alternatives. Now this is really important for me, and I really want to drive this point home to you all. You do not need the same exact weapon shown to make this setup work. I run what I like to run in PvE. I also like to run what I think is appropriate to make my build work. But I also recognize that I have been very, very fortunate and very, very lucky to have gotten the rolls on the guns I am using today, and also insanely lucky to have gotten Icebreaker to begin with. These weapons do enhance how the build plays for me, but it is not a requirement for its work. The only requirements for weapons that I am recommending you use are going to be ones that allow you to create stasis crystals. And with that requirement in mind, there are so many cool and fun weapons to use instead of the ones that I am showcasing today. So, alternatives for primaries that I've been messing around with. The first one is Wicked Implement. This gun got quite the glow up after a few patches. It got changed from a 180 to a 260 rapid fire scout. This gun revolves around the perk Creeping Attrition, where rapidly landing precision hits slows the target. Little side note, this is a nightmare in PvP if you want to try it out. It's kind of funny and it sucks to be on the receiving end. Now, while Creeping Attrition is active, its exotic perk Tithing Harvest activates, where destroying a stasis crystal or landing a precision final blow creates a stasis shard that tracks you and refills the mag. Its exotic catalyst gives us headstone, which is perfect since we need crystal generation, and picking up stasis shards from any source overflows the mag. These are shards that the gun makes and that our kit makes also, so keep that in mind. As for the overflow aspect, I was able to get anywhere between 40 to 46 rounds to my mag when the catalyst triggers. This gun is super cool, and I think it's kind of slept on in a lot of cases. It's a really good alternative for harder content where you might need to hang back and fight at a distance versus being up in the scrap. Now, the next primary I'm going to talk about is the Verglass Curve. This bow is kind of insane. So final blows will give you stacks of stasis arrows. You can have a max of 5 arrows saved up, and your next hip fire shot will release all of the stasis arrows in a single volley. Its exotic perk Hailstorm states that direct hits with the stasis arrows can freeze combatants or slow guardians, and stasis arrows that impact the environment will create stasis crystals. Another crazy free way to cover the entire field with stasis crystals that can be then detonated for massive AoEs. Now you can have a max of 5 stasis arrows ready to be fired from a hipfire shot. This will create 5 stasis crystals on the battlefield. Now, I'm not a bow guy by any means, but I gotta say this is really fun to use. Give it a try when you get a chance. For legendary options, we have quite a few that we could go over, but like I said before, I always recommend any stasis primary that can roll headstone. I do gotta say, however, headstone is great, but I've also been messing around with this Dead Horse SMG from Distortions that rolls with Crystalline Corpse Bloom. As I've been playing with this build, I found that landing a precision kill isn't always an option, and if my entire build is relying on me being able to create a stasis crystal, not being able to reliably create one can shut off the build entirely if no abilities are up. Crystalline Corpse Bloom solves this problem so nicely. It allows the creation of a stasis crystal after rapidly killing combatants with the gun, and this serves as a nice alternative since it's not crit reliant in order for the crystal to be generated. In my testing, it does seem that you need to get at least 2 kills rapidly in succession for the crystal to spawn. On my Dead Horse roll, I really wish I got something to boost the mag size a little bit more, but it's still really fun to use. Give it a try when you get a chance. So yeah, aside from headstone, look out for guns that roll with the Crystalline Corpse Bloom perk. You will not be disappointed. The best part about this build is that it strikes the right balance between running gun gameplay and ability spamming nonsense. But again, you don't need to run the exact same weapon loadout that I'm running in my video. Use whatever you like. I really think the most important part comes from the armor set itself, so anything that can create stasis crystals will be just fine. And that wraps it up for me. Again, if there's anything that I may have missed in the video that we need to go over, please let's talk about it in the comments. If you made it this far, thank you so much for sticking around, and I'll see you guys Starside.